Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time we return to Japan for a series of episodes looking at some Japanese Star Wars DVDs, all of which were acquired thanks to the generous donation of his collection into mine of a gentleman by the name of Matt Fry, whose name you've probably heard a lot on the show so far and will continue hearing a bit about for the foreseeable future as we look at the various things that were added to my collection thanks to his donation. For what it's worth, by the way, at this point, as of the time this video is being uploaded, pretty much all the stuff is now out the door from taking the stuff from that huge donation that I didn't need and shipping it out basically at the cost of shipping only to many, many, many members of the Star Wars home video community over on Facebook. So my thanks to Matt, my thanks to all those folks who have received things for their patience, because it did take a while to actually get that done. What we're going to look at here this time are the original trilogy releases on DVD from Japan from 2004 and 2005, which are very similar to the US releases. Then we'll continue on in the next episode and look at the prequels. We'll continue on after that to look at the basically the Ewoks, Droids, and Ewoks Telemovies DVDs, and then we'll take a look at the Clone Wars micro-series. So a series of episodes here on DVD releases out of Japan. In 2004, Japan saw this release. Notice there it looks very much like the US release, right? As far as the front goes, the back goes, the titles there with Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox, Home Entertainment. Okay. All of our information here. Really the only dead giveaway of the box itself is that you've got your legalese text and whatnot down here that includes Japanese. You notice that on the US bottom, it actually lists the titles of the films. That's not on the Japanese version. So a differently designed bottom, but otherwise pretty much the same, right? While it's still in shrink wrap, you would have this flap, though, covering up where the inner box comes out of the slipcover. And that is essentially the same information we saw on the US release, only in Japanese. The picture, the information in Japanese with the Japanese film titles, specs, legalese, and everything else, but primarily Japanese here. Again, with the Roman numerals with the Japanese title, but not English, whereas the actual packaging is essentially almost the exact same slipcover we saw with the titles only in English there. Inside, you would essentially find the same inner packaging, basically, as in the US. What I find interesting is that just like when we looked at the giant Skywalker Saga box set coming out of Japan, you might recall that whenever you took out the albums that folded open, they had these black pieces of paper in between the parts that folded open, basically to protect the discs inside. The same is the case between the cases inside this. You have 4 cases, right? A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and bonus materials discs, all in their own cases, all of which have a little piece of white paper in between them to keep them from, I guess, scratching each other. Little odd, but welcome, I guess, from a protective standpoint. This was the A New Hope case. I'd say, well, that looks very similar. Pretty much, but notice that in the US, we had widescreen and full screen releases available. I believe in Japan it was widescreen only, as we saw in places for some other releases like the UK. So there's no need for that silver widescreen bar up at the top, so the top can be more open. Aside from that, what would tell us that this is Japanese? Because it does have the DVD symbol, the title there, and the THX stuff, but that's in English. Let's look at the spine. What does the spine have? 20th Century Fox, Star Wars, A New Hope, 4 THX Lucasfilm product number. All English. It's the back that would actually give you anything in Japanese here. So we have Episode 4, information in Japanese, features listed in Japanese, cast crew information in English, the various symbols, your specific details on things like runtime and whatnot, which includes Japanese, legalese down here that is some Japanese, some English. Before we even look at the disc inside, having taken everything out here, I would note that since it's a clear case instead of black, you got your art there from the insert, basically on the back of the regular cover, so you can see that through it, which is kind of neat. You then do have that insert here, and aside from the legalese and whatnot, it's still English text, which is a little odd in my opinion, but just me. And then you have your disc label design, similar to the US for the most part here. But you've got the title with the Roman numeral, the product number, presumably Dolby Digital, and then some Japanese text underneath that. Japanese text here with MPEG 2, Region 2 NTSC with some Japanese text again, then more Japanese text, DVD video, and a tiny bit of legalese there on the bottom. When you actually put it in, what I find particularly interesting about these Japanese releases, and this will be the case for all of them that we're going to see, unlike most regions where your menus were still in English for some reason, in Japan the menus actually were in Japanese. That of course then brings us to The Empire Strikes Back. Again, similar but without the bar. Similar spine. Similar design to the back, going into Japanese on the back only. Similar disc design. And seeing the insert art there. And the insert, again, primarily English. Then Return of the Jedi. Again, very similar design to the front, to the spine, to the back where we have the Japanese text here. Inside, our disc art, again similar. The insert, if you take the insert out, you'll find that it's pretty much English on the one side, and you've got your element there from the insert as your interior art. And then of course we had bonus materials. Okay? Again, basically like the US widescreen version, essentially. Right? Star Wars Trilogy bonus materials, DVD, the THX stuff. The spine, again, English, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, Star Wars bonus materials, THX, Lucasfilm product number. The back then has the same information you would expect on a US release, only in Japanese. So Japanese text, showing the menu in Japanese as well, as I believe you could also see on some of those other ones. Then you got your legalese and your images and whatnot down here, where it's some English, some Japanese. A similar setup to the inside. We have our disc here. Star Wars bonus materials, product number, Dolby Digital, Japanese text, MPEG 2, Region 2 NTSC, Japanese text, DVD video, legalese. Similar setup to the other ones. Insert art on the inside. And of course this insert is actually going to open. So we have bonus materials there, nothing denoting Japanese. The back, a copyright in English and some legalese there in Japanese. Folding it open. Text that's actually in friggin' Japanese to go along with the descriptions of the various bonus features. What I would note is a little different on the bonus materials disc is that in the US there was a demo, Xbox demo I believe, for Battlefront 1, right, the video game. Not the newer Battlefront, but the original Battlefront 1. There is no demo at all for Battlefront on this. When you go to the video game and stills gallery or whatever it is, or the little menu, what you'll find is that usually on like the US version it says Battlefront. There's two options underneath it. One's a trailer and the other one is the actual demo information for what to do to put it in the Xbox and play it. Here it's just a title, and then underneath it it's only one link just for the trailer. No demo whatsoever. If you had bought this new, you would have this sticker on it denoting its price and whatnot for what it's worth. This was 9,500 yen before taxes, and then in parentheses underneath it, the with tax price of 9,975 yen. So very similar to the US, but with some interesting aspects that we see in Japan where they actually use their own language for the menus and whatnot, whereas a lot of regions didn't even bother. Then we also had the re-release of the Family Pack, the bargain version that had the 3 films but no bonus disc in the US in 2005 and in Japan. A little bit glossier than the US version. We put them side by side, you'll note there. Again, only available in widescreen, so no need for the widescreen banner across the top. Very similar otherwise. Packaging, English, 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 English everywhere. Title there. Bottom comparison, again, legalese essentially there with the barcode versus barcode with titles and legalese for the United States. Inside, it is the same copy of Return of the Jedi and your slip of paper. And The Empire Strikes Back and a slip of paper and A New Hope. Exact same stuff in different packaging that barely differs by region. But had you bought it at the time, you would have found this on the back of it to denote actually what it was. So you had your DVD specs in Japanese, images of the product, more information in Japanese, the film's titles, and then Lucasfilm and various legalese down there at the bottom, primarily in Japanese. And had you bought it new, by comparison, this would have been your price tag. I've taken it now, if I can get the price tag peeled off without destroying it, I'll stick it on a piece of cardstock and cut it out just for convenience. The price was, let's see, 5,695 yen before taxes, 5,980 yen after taxes. So some nifty little products here that don't necessarily deviate too much from the American version, albeit in terms of language and the lack in 2004 of the Battlefront demo. But nice items coming out of Japan, thanks again to Matt Fry. We'll continue our look at these as we see a little bit more deviation, slowly but surely as we go along here, as we check out the prequels in our next episode. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.